Welcome to the office hours, and specifically, we're going to be talking about how to get started with MyMLH. We'll go through a couple different use cases, what they look like, what exactly is MyMLH, and where to get started. But first, my name is Niko. I am a former director of HackTX. I also started a group called MAD at mobile app development at UT, and also interned for MLH last summer, and I got to work on MyMLH. Moving on, what our agenda looks like today. First, we're going to start with a little story. Then I'm going to introduce you to MyMLH. Then we'll look at what different usages there is for MyMLH, as well as a couple walkthroughs and example resources and projects to get you started. And then I'll open it up for any questions. So let me tell you a story. A couple of years ago, I was really excited about this one particular event. I was incredibly excited. I didn't want to miss it for the world, and I applied online. I signed up, and I think it was BitCamp. I signed up. However, the event came and went, and I didn't hear anything from the organizers. And I was very curious. I was confused. I was feeling pain, and I didn't know where to go. And I found out later that I actually mistyped my email, and that's why I didn't hear anything from the organizers, and that's why I couldn't go. So just because I misspelled my email, I was an unhappy hacker. So even further back, when I was first starting organizing my first event, I had just launched the event, and I was using some service, and then I completely forgot to ask the hackers what their t-shirt sizes were, and so I had to export to XML I had to export to a spreadsheet, and then I had to email a bunch of hackers, and I had a full inbox, and it was just another painful experience leading to a very confused Niko. So let me introduce you to MLH. This is an easy way to fix those problems. So what is MLH exactly? MLH is a hacker identity. It's a simple form that allows you to share your data, your hacker information, with a bunch of different organizers. And it's easy, once you get your hacker identity, it's easy as one click to share your information with any event. So what does it look like exactly? After you sign up for an account and you click login with MyMLH, maybe on a hackathon website, you'll be presented with this authorized event screen. And then after you click authorize, that information is then shared with the organizers with a JSON API. And that leads to happy hackers and happy organizers. So what does this look like in practice? Well, let's take a break and look at it through this lovely website called SharkHacks 5000. So this is a real fake event, and I'm very curious about going, so I'm going to click register. So once I click register, it's going to redirect me to MyMLH. And here, if I didn't have an account, I can sign up for one, or I can sign in with an existing account. And I created an account for these office hours, so I'm just going to sign in with that. Cool. Now I'm signed in, and it asked me to authorize this event. I'm like, it sounds like a reasonable hackathon, so why not? And boom, that's what it looks like. Now the organizers are able to see what that see me registered for their event with the API. So that's as simple as it is for signing up. You don't have to fill out a new form. You don't have to enter the same information every time. So how exactly does it work though? So MyMLH is actually built on OAuth. OAuth is a standard for authorization, and it's just a way to allow websites to borrow authentication from other websites. In this case, it's MyMLH. But you'll see this commonly with other websites. For example, Spotify, you might want to log in with Facebook, or DevPost has a way to log in with GitHub or Facebook. And it's just like that, we can log in with MyMLH. So behind the scenes, what actually is happening? So your website might request from the MyMLH website, from the MyMLH servers, ask for a authorization. So you can specify whether you get back an access token or a refresh token, and that you use that token, you use that access token to go to ask for the user information, and it gives it back to you. And this is just a simple way to securely ask for vital information. And we'll take a look at the different types of tokens are, either the access token or refresh token, and we'll do a simple walkthrough later. So what are the common usages? So the first one is just a standalone registration. This is just relies simply on MyMLH, and the event only needs the basic information like your t-shirt size and the different type, your food, dietary restrictions, anything like that. And typically these are automatic acceptances, so anyone that applies is welcome to the event. It's pretty easy to set up, like we'll see in a second. However, there are limited capabilities of what it can do. Maybe you want to have more custom questions like, is this your first hackathon? Do you want to upload your resume? Things like that that are particular to your event that aren't a good use of MyMLH. And we'll see what that looks like in the next slide. So another great example is integrating MyMLH into your registration. So maybe you have a pre-existing application, maybe it's built on Rails or any other platform. Integrating MyMLH into that is pretty simple, and it allows you to customize customize the experience for your attendees. So this might be a good example of what you might want to use. Why you want to use this system is because you want to send out application status or automated emails, as well as having a confirmation status for each of your attendees. So this method is much more secure and much more customizable for the organizers. And next, I think this is not a typical usage, but this is what the typical engagement looks like for your attendees for your event. First, it starts off with the sign up and apply, and it might go into thanking them with an email. The confirmation email, if you want to say, hey, thanks for applying. You got accepted. Please confirm your attendance. Later, you might want to send out an information email with further information closer to your events, as well as during your event, you might want to do check-in and other announcements. And then maybe after the event, follow up with an email. So this goes way beyond what registration looks like and way beyond the common usages of what MLH is. However, all of these rely on the hacker identity. So this, you want to make sure that this information is related to one attendee, and you want to make sure that it's organized. In this case, you can also use MLH to handle your hacker identity. So let's get into what this looks like in terms of actually hooking it up. So the first demonstration I want to show you is how to hook it up into a static website. And in this case, it's going to be a website called Registration Hacks, which I made for this event. So this is just a simple HTML website. And you can see here, this is what the website looks behind the screens. And you'll see these two buttons, which is what we'll need to work with, apply and sponsor. Obviously, you can see them on this screen as well, apply and sponsor. So when I click apply, I want to be signing in with MyMLH. So how exactly do I do that? So I go to, the first step is going to MyMLH and creating a profile if you haven't already. And then once you create a profile and you are signed in, go to My Apps, and you'll be presented with a screen where you can see all your existing applications or register a new one. So I want to register a new one. I'll call it Registration Hacks. And I will add a logo to it. So just something like this. And then I will want a redirect URL. So this is the URL that it's going to return to after the hacker is done signing up for your website. In this case, I just want a simple thank you screen, which is a file called thanks.html. That's it. So we created a new new application for registration hacks. At the top, you can see the title. On the left, you can see the logo. On the right, you can see different actions you might want to take, like editing the information, deleting the application, or exporting all the users of your application to a spreadsheet. At the bottom, you'll see application ID as well as a secret. These are similar to a username and password, so these are crucial that you don't share them with people. However, for this demonstration, I am sharing it with y'all so that you can see them. But I'll probably delete this application after the walkthrough. So now that we've created our application on MyMLH, we want to hook this into our website. So what exactly how do we hook it up to our website? Well, an easy way to know how to do this is by going to the documentation, and we'll just copy this URL right here. So as you can see, in this URL that we're hooking up to our website, the path is mymlh.io /OAuth/authorize, and this is just the authorization URL. And the parameters that we want to pass through this URL is a client ID, which is the same thing as the application ID, the redirect URL. So where is MyMLH going to redirect to after the user has authorized the application, and the response type. And the response type dictates whether we're asking for the access token or the refresh token, like we saw in the slides before. So let's just hook this up. So I'm going to grab the application ID, and I'm going to copy it and paste into our URL. I'm going to grab the redirect URL. So in this case, it's just going to be that registration hacks /thanks. And I also want to encode it for HTML so that the browser can interpret it. So this is just an encoder tool. And I hit encode, and I have a readable redirect URL. And last step, I want to make sure that I have the right response type. So in this case, it says code, which if you remember from the slide before, that code is the same thing as the refresh token. In this case, I want a simple application, and I don't want, I really just want the access token. So I type in token, and that should work. So so I should be getting back the access token for that authorization. So I just want to push this live so you can see how it looks. And I will edit. I will push this to GitHub Pages so you can see this live. Added URL, and I need to go to GitHub Pages. I can't type, but it's okay. And as that's doing that, I will open this. I need to make sure to clean that branch. As that's doing that, I will open this in locally, and it should work somewhat. Maybe the redirect won't work, but I will see the redirect to MyMLH because that's hooked up correctly. And then once I click authorize, it's going to try to go back to this address. So it says thank you. Emails will be sent out shortly. So boom, that was pretty easy to do to hook up to a static website. Cool. So that's an example of what it looks like for a static website. What does it look like for a more intense application? So for this demonstration, I've already created a Sinatra example. So this is just Sinatra is a framework for Ruby for an application on built in Ruby. I will walk you through what is happening here. I don't expect you to understand all of it, but the gist of it is what I want you to get. So the first thing to note is at the top, you'll see the configuration variables for the callback, as well as the client ID and the secret. So the callback we can specify here, but we can also, you'll see that it's pulling from these environment variables for the ID and the client secret. So that just pulls from this file, and that's just because I don't want to share my ID and secret to to GitHub if I push all my changes to GitHub. So I don't want those to be public. Then you'll see a couple of helpers, and that's just to fetch the user given an access token, and then you'll see the actual routes. So I don't expect you to understand what the syntax looks like for Sinatra, but if you could probably guess what this means. For this routes, at the base routes, I just want to have a button with MyMLH, and that says log in with MyMLH. It redirects to a new route, which we'll see down below, /auth/MLH /auth/MLH, which is the first step of authorizing. So we're basically asking from the MyMLH service the same information before. So we're passing in a client ID as well as a callback, but this time we're asking for a code rather than a token. So we're redirecting to this authorization path, asking for a code, and we'll get back that code. And if you remember, that is the refresh token that we talked about before. And the main difference is that using this code, we can then ask for access token. And it adds another step into the process. And you might be asking, Niko, what's the point of that? That doesn't make any sense. That's an extra step. I don't want to do that. And I'll say, good question. And the reason why we do that is because it's more secure. And the primary reason is that if the access token expires or the user refreshes their token, it expects it to delete their account from your website, to remove that token from the website. However, if they want to, so the token is invalidated if it expires or the user refreshes it. So using that code, we can then ask for an updated token, and we can then continue without having any problems in having an invalid token in our system. So that's why we are asking for a refresh token rather than the access token in this application. So after that step, we're given a code back in response. So we're given a code back once we hit this URL, and it will redirect, our application will redirect to this callback path. So callback URL. And in this case, we have our code, which we are going to pull from the parameters. And we're going to make another request, and this time we're going to make a request for the access token. And so this step is more crucial, and we'll need to pass in a client ID as well as a secret, and this time as well as a code, and a grant, something called the grant type, which is just the authorization code, and as well as the callback URL. So this method is much more secure than the previous method. And so once we get that, we're able to have the access token, we're able to parse out the access token, and then we can fetch the user with that access token. So what does that look like in practice? Let's hook it up. All right, so from here, we're going to grab this application token, application ID. We're going to go back to our application. We're going to paste that in. We're going to go to grab the secret as well. We're going to also paste that in. And we also want to set, we want to remember to set our callback. So in this case, it's going to be localhost 92.92/auth/MLH/callback. And we need to add the HTTP at the beginning. And that should work. And that's just the callback for me hosting the application locally. So on top of that, we need to grab this callback and plug it into our system. So grabbing this, we enter it here. And everything should be ready to go. So I am going to run the system and see what happens. All right, so the Sinatra app should be running, and it should be running on port 9292. So going back to our window, go to localhost 9292, and it says, boom, it says log in with MyMLH. And as you remember, this is the base route for our application. So we're just going to click log in with MyMLH, and it should redirect to the right address. However, I probably did not put it in correctly. So editing this callback, and we're going to add the correct callback. And we need to update that in our application. And let's see, hopefully the demo got, there we go. There we go. I see what the problem was. It was a bad copy paste error. All right. Hopefully the demo guide will be with me on this try. So rerunning the application, we'll see where we'll go back to log in with MyMLH. We'll refresh, and this time it hopefully, fingers crossed, it should work. Perfect. So now you can see the data for that user, and that's basically what the application looks like. So after it asks for the code, it then uses the code to ask for the access token, and then it uses the access token to fetch the user's data, and it displays that data to the browser. And that's as easy as it is to. That's pretty much the simplest way to hook up MyMLH into your existing application. All right, so going back to our presentation, what are some uses and examples that we are seeing? So the first one, who's using it? So we have a ton of hackathons already using it, and this is a good thing because the more people that use MyMLH, the better it is for everyone. As more people use it, it's just going to be easier to sign into new hackathons and for hackathon organizers to build tools on top of it. So a good example of this would be HackTX. At HackTX, we built a system called Nucleus, which was built on Hack, and it used MyMLH as the center identity for a ton of different tools that we use, including our check-in system, as well as announcements and other things. But so we use it also for a very easy, a very awesome tool for this was the dashboard, and to easily see who checked in and who confirmed. So next hackathon, which I thought was a really clever use of MyMLH, they had this button at the top, log in with MyMLH, and it actually pre-populated. So it was simply there to fill out the form from the existing MyMLH account, using the information from the existing MyMLH account. So it populated the fields after you're logging into MyMLH. And another use, which is pretty awesome, is the hardware lab that we have rolled out. So if you've used the hardware lab, if you've booked, if you've requested hardware in the last couple of weeks, you probably have a MyMLH account already. And this is how MyMLH is how we track the users of that system. And here are some resources to get started. So if you want to just get started, a great source is just the MLH docs, specifically the getting started documentation. Then there are also some great examples. One that I've built was the HTML example that you saw called registration hacks. You're free to check it out and look at look how to hook it up to a static website. Another example would be there's a Flask example, which is a framework in Python that you can check out. And then there's also the Sinatra example that we walked through today. Feel free to check those out. And if you have any questions, you can email us. There's also a ton of resources out there, a ton of cool projects that are going on. One is a simple JavaScript dashboard where you can check out all the users, how they sign up, and the flow over time. There's also a Flask dashboard where you can see stats about a Flask dashboard that you can see the stats of all of the users and the signups, as well as there are larger projects like HackTX that we built a pretty large feature set into the system, and we incorporated MyMLH, as well as HackTCNJ, which also has a ton of cool features inside their system, and they also integrate with MyMLH. Those are really awesome resources, so you should also check those out. And lastly, I want to plug, if you enjoyed this talk, you should definitely check out HackCon 4, where a ton of different hackathon organizers come to give talks similar to this, but a much larger set of variety of different topics. So lastly, I would like to open up to any questions that you might have, and where you can, any questions that you might have. And feel free to ping me or MLH after as well.
Perfect. Right. So the first question that we have comes in from Ben Thornton. So he asks, what kind of redundancy, if any, do you suggest for check-in when you are using an online system or system has not quite worked the past 2 years and will be implementing a more manual system as backup for next year?
That's a good question. I think a pretty good way to provide redundant information, or making sure that you don't lose a ton of hackathon information in your after you've announced your application and you've gotten a bunch of people signed up, is simply it would be MyMLH actually. So that actually stores a bunch of your hacker information in a pretty secure way, and if you lose all the information on your end, you can simply look it up again through MyMLH.
Cool. So this question comes in from Mike Swift. What features do you want to see added to MyMLH in the near future?
That's a good question, Swift. I would love to see. More better documentation, as well as different sets of privileges on MyMLH. So you'll be able to say, I only want to share certain information with a website. I should be able to do that, and I would love to see that come to fruition.
Cool. So we have a couple more questions from anonymous users. Is there any way to integrate MyMLH without writing a single line of code?
The least amount I would be able to do for you is one line of code, which is which you saw in the demo, and that's just hooking up to your website. If you wanted to, you could figure out another way around that, but one line of code is pretty easy ask.
Awesome. So can I use MyMLH with Mailchimp so I can email participants?
That's a good question. I think there is huge implications of how to hook MyMLH. There's a huge case for hooking MyMLH into other services like Mailchimp or Typeform. I know for sure that you can do it with Typeform, and you should be able to grab your user's data and integrate it with Mailchimp as well. So you would just be asking for that user's information, finding the email, and then signing up for your own Mailchimp. So it should be possible.
Cool. So can you put a limit on the amount of people that can sign up using MyMLH?
So right now, anyone is able to sign up for MyMLH. You aren't able to limit how many people sign up or who can sign up.
Can you use MyMLH for apps and hacks that don't involve hackathon registration?
Yes, absolutely. You can use it. A great example of this is the hardware lab that we have built. That is not a hackathon registration system, yet that relies on MyMLH simply because it's a great way for all the to get all the different hackers information. You can use MyMLH for a bunch of different systems.
Can non-MLH hackathons use MyMLH for registrations?
Yeah, they are able to use MyMLH for their hackathons, even if you aren't part of the MLH membership.
What features do you plan on adding to MyMLH next?
I think the features that we see immediately are the improved documentation, as well as certain specific privileges for information. So those should be the next couple of things that we're trying to tackle.
Cool. So you mentioned that you can integrate MyMLH to like Typeform. Will you be able to integrate it with like Eventbrite?
That's a good question. I don't know exactly how you would go about doing that, but I think you might be able to do that if Eventbrite has a way to do that with an API or something. So that's what it would rely on. However, if it does, then you should be able to hook it up. The reason why you can do it with Typeform is because you can pass in information through a URL, which is pretty simple to set up.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Niko. If anybody has any other questions in the future, you can feel free to message Niko or send us an email, and we can help you get started by using MyMLH. So thank you very much, Niko.
Of course, thank you.
One last thing that I'd like to remind everybody, this coming Monday, we will actually be doing another office hours with Shai Rupro, the Deputy Commissioner. A lot of you have probably had phone calls with him already. He'll be doing an office hours on hackathon judging. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely check it out. It's going to be super helpful. I know it's something that usually tends to not go that smoothly at events, so it's definitely something that you should check out. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Niko.
Of course, thank you.
All right, have a nice day, everybody.